on the street chasing wrong from right. Eyes like fire burning through the haze. Truth is a weapon, cuts through the maze. Some call her trouble, some call her brave. Digging up secrets they tried to save. A real deal around town. She's breaking it down, spinning the wheel, exposing the sound. They despise her, they praise her, but she won't slow down. Real deal around town. The truth's her cry, yeah. They whisper in shadows, they curse her name. Afraid of the spotlight she brings to the game. But the grateful ones, they cheer in the dark for the spark she ignites in their weary hearts. Some call her danger, some call her hope. She's the thin line on the tightrope. Oh, real deal around town. She's breaking it down, spinning the wheel, exposing the sound. They despise her, they praise her, but she won't slow down. Real deal around town. The truth's her crown, yeah. Real deal around town. She's breaking it down, spinning the wheel, exposing the sound. They despise her, they praise her, but she won't slow down. Real deal around town. The truth's her crown, yeah. The truth's her crown, yeah.
Well, hi everybody. How's everybody doing today? I've got this is Real Deal Around Town. Cindy here, and I've got a news story for you. You may have heard about it already, but I'm talking today about government officials on a crime spree. Is that the name of it? Government officials on a crime spree. That's the name of my title. I have to look up I forgot what I named it. Anyway, I'm spreading my wings a little bit outside of Townsend on this story. I heard a news report this morning that was relatively disturbing, and I think it was probably shocking to many of you. I was disturbed by it, but not shocked. And I'm going to get into it as to why. That sometimes things are so predictable, it's frightening. And this story to me is something that could have been prevented, and it was not. And particularly where it happened. I'm going to talk to you about on the news today. There was a assistant court magistrate clerk in I think Salem. I have to pull it up again. Salem, who was just indicted for stealing bail money. In other words, defendants would be let out on bail, and before they leave or somebody comes in and will pay their bail to there's a little treasurer's office, and they pay their money, and they get to be out on bail basically. And they could have other different restrictions on their lives, but they pay bail, which means usually there's some kind of dangerousness thing, or but bail is an interesting thing in Massachusetts. It's not a punishment. It's to ensure that the defendant is going to show back in court. That's what our Supreme Judicial Court, Massachusetts SJC, determined several years ago, ruled that defendants who you have a reasonable expectation that they're going to show up to their next hearing, many get personal recognizance. There's no bail assigned at all. But the monies are usually based on their ability, the expectation that they're going to appear, and not much else. The seriousness of their crime may play a role, but often it's supposed to be the expectation that they're going to appear in court. Additional considerations are often done based on the seriousness of the crime, but that would require dangerousness hearings and those kind of things. And everybody doesn't get those. It seems, from what I'm observing, that more and more times the courts are using that route in order to get people to be either incarcerated or to get a high bail. And it's not necessarily, I don't know, they'll probably be back before the SJC before too long to get that, to address some of those issues. But the bail money, the defendant, it's the defendant's money. They're stealing from the defendants. In reality, this woman actually stole from the court itself, because the paper trail on bail is protected, that it was a record that the court had the money. And because there's the trial paperwork, the defendant appeared before a judge and the bail was set, and there's paperwork assigned in that regard. So there's always a second route of paperwork. The defendant is pretty much protected. Although, just to give a little word of advice, if you ever find yourself in court, save all the paperwork and save it forever. Save the receipts, just in case somebody in a courthouse learns, oh, I'm going to have to get rid of all the paperwork next time. Somebody will come up with that idea. So keep the receipt. But what's disturbing here, let me pull it up. Let me see if I can pull this. I had something else showing there. So let me see if I can pull up the case. That's not it. That looks like it might be it. There it is. This is, I took this off of the Massachusetts. I didn't get this from a newspaper. I took this straight from mass.gov. The Attorney General's office has this press release up. And when something happens with court people, boy, they don't like crooks among them. And this disturbs me because it was a court employee. Former Salem District Court Assistant Clerk Magistrate indicted and arraigned on yesterday. Okay, this might have been yesterday. I got this story. That was yesterday. Sorry. That she stole only this, for some of these cases, this is a low number, but $71,000 in bail funds while she was employed by the Salem District Court. So this is at the district court level, which a lot of bails aren't usually that high in district court, I don't think. So it was more than one person whose bails she was borrowing or taking or using for other purposes other than what they were meant for. And yeah, it's disturbing when we think about our court system, and we want to think that, well, are there criminals working in the courthouse? I mean, is this established? What's going on? You would, maybe people would think that this couldn't possibly happen in a courthouse, could it? And my theory in this, I'm going to explain it because I'm going to bring up some other cases after this. That's exactly what my opinion is, what was happening in this courthouse. and probably in every single courthouse across Massachusetts and maybe across the country, who knows, that, oh, this would never happen in a courthouse, would it? Yeah, it would. Because you would think that it would never happen here. You would think that everybody's trustworthy. You would think that all the checks and balances are there. And I'm talking about if you work there, you're sitting in the courthouse somewhere. There's employees all over the place, whether you're a judge, whether you're the actual clerk magistrate. This woman was the assistant clerk magistrate. And then there's some staffers in the office who are processing, putting decisions and filings and filing them and making sure they get into the right case files so that lawyers get it and everybody gets in court the right day. The dockets are done and posted and everything goes on. Then you got the probation office, and then you've got court officers who are protecting their, like, security guards of some sort. And they, you got all these people, and you just think everybody's here because we're good, honest people. And it's all those people that are coming in the door, some of them through the back door in cuffs, are the ones who are bad. We're honest, and we do everything right. If we make an administrative mistake, it's just a mistake. Nobody's here stealing anything. That would never happen. And that's the attitude that is happening. And that's what I think happened in this case. And it happens at jobs, at government offices, across everywhere. And it happens in regular jobs, that you have people working for you, or even it might be family members. Okay, they would never steal, would they? No, I'm not even gonna. I trust everybody who works for me, or in a town hall. Oh no, nobody would steal any money. Oh no, everything's good. Everything's processing just fine. Okay, you keep thinking that, but you got to have checks and balances. And in my opinion, this courthouse just didn't. They trusted this woman, and she took advantage of it. And I'll tell you what I think about how these cases happen. So she was serving as a bail magistrate. And so she was collecting, she was the one who got her hands on the bail. You paid bail, you gave it to her. So according to the Attorney General, Lawrence District Court staff, this is Salem and Lawrence are both Essex County. So no, this is not Norfolk County for those. This is Essex County. So we're moving around the counties. So it's not just, everybody's got their eyeballs on Norfolk County because of all the Karen Reed and Michael Proctor and all this other stuff. But this is in Lawrence. I'm sorry, this is Essex County this time. So all the things are happening up in Essex County while Norfolk is burning to the ground. So according to this was in May of 2024, that the staff at Lawrence District Court were trying to process a bail forfeiture. And because in a bail forfeiture is when somebody fails to show up. They pay their bail, promising to show up at their next hearing. And after, judges usually give people a few opportunities to not default. But in this particular case, this court staff were processing a bail forfeiture, which happens. And they realized that the money that they were trying to do a forfeiture on wasn't there. The court had never received the money, and it was missing. But it was fine. In this case, the documentation was there because the person, they already knew, the court, it was in the man or woman's court records that they paid this bail, and they needed to default them and transfer the money to wherever they transfer to. All an accounting thing. It's all accounting. But there was no money in the fund, probably, wherever they put it. It's not in a drawer, but it's somewhere. It's in the records. It's administrative. It's an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, an account. But when the missing money, of course, where her name must have been on something, and she submitted a forged recognizance form to the court for the missing bail, changing the date to make it appear though the bail was received more recently than it had been. So she not only took this money, I believe this 25,000 is part of the 71, but she forged a document that may never, not just changing a date, she just took probably a whole new form. I'm not sure. And to create the appearance that the money was really somewhere, even though it never was. So the trial court did an audit, and they revealed that there were not just this one, but 8 different bails, and it where Bowman had taken were missing and never turned over to the relevant courts. So I'm not, how they collect bails. Who knows? Things could go through one particular court. Counties might do some things more centralized. This article doesn't give us and they have all the information, and I wouldn't expect that they would, because they don't want to give us, the public or anybody else who might come up with this great idea, on how they account for their funds. But the Bowman was in Salem, and it was first noticed out of the Lawrence computer system, I'm certain. And they were the processing in which causes the right hand to not know what the left hand is doing, another red flag, that there isn't a good track record to follow the money and to do checks and balances. You can do checks, but if you got to do balances, you can do balances, but you got to do checks. You can't do just half-ass job on this stuff. You have to go all the way with it. And what happened is she was the one who had control of it. She took the money in and then was supposed to turn it over to the courts, but there isn't a check on the other end to confirm it. There isn't A plus B. There's an A to C, but there's no B. And that's what happened here. And Bowman figured it out. And I'll tell you how I think this happens in almost all cases. But anyway, these 8 bails, the 8 different bails, were 71,000, and that makes sense to me, because we're talking about a district court. District courts are the lower level crimes that they could have bail of, this is like, so 8 bails, so 10,000 or below for the most part for these 8 bails were under, somewhere south of $10,000 each. All right. The audit also revealed that Bowman had some bail funds for far longer than bail magistrate rules permitted. Oh, they have one rule. That's good. They had $75,000 bail for more than 6 months before paying it to the regular court. The relevant court, I think I said that. But so she would come into possession somehow with $75,000 bail, and she's supposed to transfer the money to, let's say, Lawrence or some other, whatever the court is that owns the money. So I'm thinking, if you're ever online, there's a masscourt.org where you can check who's on you can look up cases, civil case, you can't look up criminal, but looking up the, and on there, you can go on there and look up if you're involved, if you're involved with the case and you owe a fine or a fee, there's a little box where you can pay your fee, pay it. You can make a payment. And that could be one way this was handled, or they're completely centralized. I don't know. I'm starting to make things up now. But somehow this woman would receive, maybe it's just administrative in the whole county, but she would get the 75, the bail for this case, and she's supposed to transfer it. Now, some people pay cash. If somebody's got 75,000, that's a lot of cash. I have questions about where they got the money, but maybe they do. I don't know. I have to ask the court. How do you handle bail? How can people? I know people can pay by credit card for some things. I don't know. Personal checks might be frowned upon, but they might take them. I mean, if you write a bad check to the court, it's another crime. So I don't know. I have questions, but it could be cashier's check, it could be anything. But if she had a large bail, especially if she had cash, that's cash gets everybody in trouble all the time, everywhere. And this may be a case of cash, but she didn't turn it over for a whole 6 months. Now, in this article, it says the rules permit what the rule far longer than the bail magistrate rules permitted. My permitted rule would be 24 hours. This can't sit. You get bail, you get any payment like that, and you're in a system. You can't sit on money for 6 months like that. Well, where's the money, people? And who is watching this? How there should have been a trigger. There should have been a trigger way before 6 months. There should have been a trigger within a couple of days. That should have been somebody's computer screen should have had some lights flashing on it to say Michelle did not send you. Michelle owes you 75 grand. Where the hell is it? And she got 75,000 that you're supposed to have. How? Why didn't you know? There's checks and balances. This is accounting 101 or maybe 102. But there should have been a trigger for understanding this. And this is what Michelle Bowman figured out, that there's no trigger. And she probably found this out by accident one day. Does it say how long she worked there? We'll get there. She probably worked there for a little while, long enough to figure out this. But she had a. Oh, they also. This is not only did she sit on money. They discovered that there were several withdrawals taking from her bail bank account. Another this is no checks and balances on the bank account, which appeared to be for personal use, including over $14,000 to pay her credit card bill. Heavens forbid that if she doesn't pay her bill that she'll end up in small claims court, probably in the same court she worked out of. $14,000 in payments to her landlord. Now, these are probably, that's a total number. Both of these are total numbers. They're multiple withdrawals. I'm sure she doesn't have rent of $14,000. And $8,500 in cash withdrawals. That's for her coffee and her lattes on the way to work. During relevant time frame, Bowman took trips also to Vegas, Barbados, and Aruba, and spent money on jewelry, designer perfume, high-end clothing, and event tickets. She was living high off the hog on defendant's money. Don't you feel good? If you've ever been in court for anything, it's your money. Keep track of it. Bowman is charged with fiduciary embezzlement and unwarranted privilege for her misuse of bail funds and forgery and uttering for creating and submitting a false recognition form. She was arraigned yesterday on October 21st in Essex Superior Court, and that's because of the level of the crime, in order to turn over her passport. Her next court date is December 12th. So what I really got tickled by this, she was released on personal recognizance. She didn't have to pay bail. I got a little tickle out of that. It's not funny, but it's like, okay, well, of course, if she were going to pay bail, she'd be paying her bail with the same money that she took from some other person who was paying their bail. So I kind of get the joke. Don't ask her to pay bail, because then you'd have to get into this whole thing. Where did she get the bail money? And they didn't want to know. I'm joking about this. But you know what? If this kind of stuff is happening right under their noses, I don't think they wanted to know. They didn't want to know anymore. But they took her passport. Why'd they take her passport, do you think? I know, because she went to Barbados and Aruba. Where else could she possibly go? Anywhere. Because desperate people make desperate decisions. And this woman, her whole life, the rug was pulled out from under her. She's caught, and she's in the system. You don't, those people don't want to get to become criminals like this. This is serious business here. Um, she could very well do time, most likely will. Um, yeah, it'll be soft because she's a court person. She's not. I don't believe she's particularly old. Did it give her age? I think it did. Hmm. It did. Oh, 51. So she's young enough. She could handle it, but they won't. This is my hunch. They won't. She might get sentenced. She might. I know you're like, why wouldn't she? Because she's court people. Um, but I think she could because of the the unwarranted privilege that her charges, like she defrauded the court itself, the court system itself. She made a mockery, and she made a mockery of the court system. And you got people like Real Deal making videos about this, and this is on all the news channels over the last 24 hours. But now we're hitting YouTube with this, and I know that's terrible, right? But this is important. I mean, she did this to her own coworkers and the judges in her court that she works with every day, and they have coffee together from time to time. A lot of the judges don't hide in their office. They're friendly with some of the court personnel that are all supporting. They're all supporting the same mission, right? Not always. And this is an example of that. And she just took advantage of the whole system and for her own use. And I want to tell you what happens in these cases. How does this happen? And it's because when you're working with money, when you're doing this type of work, I'm not forget that she's in a courthouse. You can see, it becomes obvious that there's a problem. And sometimes you don't think about it. You do your job the best you can. It can be very busy in a courthouse. There's a lot of people paying bail. There's a lot of people getting their bail money back. She might have had other duties. I mean, who knows? But she may have had financial difficulties, which a lot of people do. Which we'll get to. That's not the first thing, but sometimes people find things out by accident. She was late on getting money turned in, and nothing happened. There were no red flags. Oh, so, and they get busy. They have other duties. They're doing their things, and they just can't. Oh, they got a doctor's appointment they got to go to, and then they don't get back to the office, so they got to take their kids to the dentist. Their kids sick, and they got to go home. And you got $75,000 sitting on your desk. What do you do with it? I'm sure it's much more serious than that. You safeguard the money in whatever form it's in, or whatever the process is when you take it in. What do you do with it? I'm sure she just didn't stick it in the top desk drawer. But just didn't get it into the system and off as she's charged with, not getting it into the relevant court where it's supposed to go. And she did this. I'm thinking what happens to a lot of people is, and I'm almost calling these folks that do this a victim of their own problem. They're a victim that they're the culprit, but they're also the victim of themselves. They did it to themselves, and it was not usually intentional. I am confident that Michelle Bowman did not go to work in the court system with the intent of working her way up to this job and then stealing from it. I'm confident she didn't do that. She started this job with a good heart. She's really proud of herself to be working in the court system and feeling like she's doing good for the community. and things started to fall off. And she just sometimes maybe just got lazy and just, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and this money's sitting, it's going to go, it's going to go. And I'm busy and I got this and that, and, I'll get it there. And she wasn't stealing anything. And then the next thing that kid that she had to take to the dentist who now needs braces. And then, I mean, you just start adding things. The rent's going up. Her car broke down and it can't be repaired. So she's got to get another car. And then maybe, she's 50, she's probably got an adult child as well. And they need, maybe they go to college, and then you got to pay the rent and it's behind. And now your credit cards, she wasn't, and I'm not saying that she's totally inept at handling her finances, but things happen to people and it gets tough, and you're gonna have to carry debt on your credit card, and things can get really challenging. And that might have been embarrassing to her, and she didn't search. And I joked about small claims court earlier, but she might not have wanted to go to small claims. I don't blame her. That would be embarrassing to get called into small claims when you work there. And that raises financial flags. You don't want people to know you have financial problems when you're working with money. That's not a good thing. That raises the flags of, oh, wait a minute, we have somebody who's at risk. And that's true. That should have been caught. But if they knew, I mean, if she's going on trips, they think she's got money, even though they know that her salary might keep her from doing that. Right? It's another red flag. She was doing things that she should not have been doing. So then you start taking, if you got cash bail sitting in your drawer or wherever it is, you you you're just going to borrow it because you need groceries, you need gas in your car, you need, you got to pay your rent's due, and you don't get paid till Tuesday or next week. It's Tuesday and your rent's due today, and you're not getting paid till Friday, whatever it is. You, these little things start to pile up, and you start borrowing money. Your intent is, I'm going to take it from this for right now, and then I'm going to put it back when I get paid, and then I'm going to take care of this. And they might even feel horribly guilty. And then what happens then? And as they say, oh, I got away with that. Nobody, no, there's nothing happening here. And then, but people who are handling money, you see where the checks and balances are. You see, like, when you're processing funds, where they're going and where they're not going. And you know that there's nobody watching. There's nobody, no second signature, so to speak. There's no second person to look over your records that has to approve any transactions or needs to validate that the bail fund is up to snuff. There's no, that wasn't there. That was not in existence anywhere. And that's what I see as a problem. And I'm thinking the court is probably, the whole court system is going to be changing the way they do business. They need to have these checks and balances. And the reason I say that, it's not that this one person was a crook and everybody else is honest. She went into that job as an honest woman. I'm sure of it. And she's horrified at where she's standing today. And she's horrified by her own behavior. And it's another common experience that these people find themselves in. Like, I didn't mean to steal it, but it got easier and easier and easier, and nobody was watching the store. And then she did this forged document, so she knew she just had to cover herself. But she didn't start out meaning to do this, but yet the forging of the document kind of cinches it for me that, yeah, you crossed the line. And she was crossing the line. Well, she crossed the line on the beginning, but she crossed the bigger line, the point of no return, when she started taking these trips and all this kind of stuff. And I should get, boy, what have I got? The water department behind me. Oh my, I'm going to change that picture, everybody. How's that? Before I got on here, I was going to I have a picture of a courthouse. This is in case you need a courthouse. That's Air District Court. This court has nothing to do with this case, just to let you know. But I want to put a courthouse behind me. I was going to go looking for a picture of Salem District Court and I forgot. So anyway, so here we are. So yeah, she went too far with this, which is clear. But and the checks and balances weren't there. And I want to tell you, I don't talk about it a lot. I have years ago, I got this degree in accounting. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I was really what stands out to me. My favorite class, my absolutely favorite class, is really towards the end of your studies is auditing. Auditing, and the reason I've told other people this that I really look back on that class with joy, and because it brought everything together. It brings things together, and it's exciting because the first day of class, it's all they talk to you about is ethics, and it's everybody's excited. You know, the beginning of this auditing, this is great. We're on the home stretch to our degrees, and we felt really confident in our lives, and then we're all laughing and joking, and the teacher just cut to the chase and cut us off at the knees, and it got real serious, and he wouldn't let us laugh. He was really putting us in our place, and which we didn't need to be put in our place, but just silence. And he talked to us all, the whole class, which classes in college aren't really long, but they're about ethics because of what they were about to teach us. And what they teach you in auditing is how to steal. They teach you how to steal. And they tell you, but in ethics, they teach you you're coming out of here with an accounting degree. Your job is to catch other people stealing. We don't want you to steal. But we're teaching you how people do it and what the laws are, what the larceny, the embezzlement. They teach you what everybody else is doing and how they do it, and how on a routine audit, which you can't catch everything because a routine audit is not in every line item. You don't check every single line to see every single transaction that anyone's ever done is fine. Everything about it, you can't. But you're looking for trends, and they teach you in school what you're looking for generally. Where are the red flags? Where are they? And they usually find them where the red flags are. They might not catch. Sometimes they'll catch actual theft, but usually you don't. You find where the flags are and where the problems might be, and then it's up to the business or the government agency to do due diligence, to do what they recommend, and have these checks and balances. And that's why I love this kind of, when I see these kind of news stories, it always brings me back to my younger days when I was getting my accounting degree. And it's like, here it is right there again, another case where the checks and balances were not present. And if you're in any situation, any government agency in particular, where what so and so is trustworthy, no, they're not. They're trustworthy until they're not, and they may not think of themselves as doing anything wrong. I love hearing that when government people say, "Oh no, nothing's done wrong here. We're doing it the same way we've always done it. We haven't had any problems until today." All right, bullshit. I'm going to give you a couple more cases, but I have to say this court system is rewriting how they manage this money, and they should. And it's not because we want to catch bail people stealing money. It's why was the court system missing $75,000? How many more how many hundreds of thousands of dollars can they not account for in the court system? And I'm not saying somebody stole it, but you don't even know, do you? The court system doesn't even know where the money is. This woman, she had all this money somewhere, but it wasn't in the accounts in the court. So where was it? And they didn't know it was missing until this one particular bail person, defendant, was forfeiting his bail because he didn't come back to court. He took off. And that's how she got caught, because another criminal set her up unintentionally. But that person's probably doesn't even know it's him. He doesn't know that it's all his fault that she got caught. But the checks and balances, they needed a second. There had to be a second eye. There needs to be second eyes on these accounts. I mean, I could sit here and give you this whole class, but I'm not. I want to talk about some other cases. I'm not. Oh, I was gonna. I did. Oh, I can't bring them up. I don't want to bring them up on the. I don't. No, because I have them on a different. Never mind. I'm going to pull them up for myself. I think. Oh, here's one. This is a recent one. I'm not pulling up the screen. I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of information. Back in February of this year, February 25th, in Winchendon District Court. Close by to where I'm at. I'm going to read. This is from the Gardner News. Officials in Winchendon have announced that the case of the former town treasurer, who had been fired in 2024 for stealing from the town, was resolved in Winchendon District Court. It was resolved pretty nicely. The guy's lucky, let me tell you. But he wasn't doing the big time. He wasn't traveling to Aruba. He only stole $5,900. Or almost, just shy apparently. He stole $5,900. He was the treasurer. He was the town's treasurer. Okay? Tell me you're anybody's worrying about this. Oh no, that would never happen in my town. Yes, it would. You have to, even the treasurer needs to have somebody else with the checks and balances. You can't let the treasurer do it. I mean, if you don't understand, have your auditing firm or your accounting firm explain to you ways in which to provide these safeguards. There are safeguards. It's not somebody over the treasurer. It's just, and the treasurer, anybody that's been a treasurer knows that having these checks and balances, although they're a pain in the ass, there are checks and balances to verify any movement of money. And I mean, I've seen treasurer people just, never mind. I just have people that have no idea what they're looking at review only certain documents, and the other money's going out the other door. But you got to have something. But if you have true auditors or accountants, actual accountants, going over you don't have to go over the books, but just go over procedures. There are procedures that can prevent this, and they're not that hard to put in. You know, there are, only if you're fighting people to, oh no, they're honest. We can't do that. We can't treat people like they're criminals. You're not. Honest people don't have a problem with checks and balances. And the checks and balances, if people don't want them, I would ask them why. Because I wouldn't trust the people that are arguing with me. You need to have these checks and balances. It's not that difficult, especially when you're dealing with cash. And cash is a problem. And where's this article? Cash. I think it was cash. And this is where the problems come in. The cash is sitting there. And you can easily, a lot of times people borrow money. They just borrow it. They're going to put it back. And they just don't. They never get around to it. And then people that are in these types of positions, they can see that they can make it disappear forever. Or so they think. And no one will ever know, because they think they've got the loop closed. They think there's a loop that has been sealed off, and that in the accounting practices that there's no record of that money ever existing. And it's true. here we go. This guy had also worked in other communities. He was the treasurer collector in Berlin, Leominster, Bellingham, and Boxborough. Let me back up. I want to check this guy's age, if it's in here. No, it does not give his age. The younger he is, the more concerned I am about him moving from job to job. When people move from job to job in this way, if they're older, I mean, I know town employees move from town to town. Sometimes it's just personality things, and it happens. Oh my God, I can see it happens all the time. But they can just disappear. They gotta go. I can't work with these people. I gotta go, and they do. Or the money moving around. I'm going to make an assumption that Leominster might have paid well over more than Winchendon because of the workload and the money. I don't know what order he worked in these communities, but Bellingham, Boxborough, I don't know. I mean, these aren't, I don't know how affluent communities they are, but they're, I really don't know that much. Boxborough's not bad, uh, based on how much money they have to pay their people. But sometimes people, I can't accuse this guy of more than what he's charged with, but he may have had issues in these other towns, and there may have been some financial things that nobody could figure out, and as far as accounting for some of the funds, and they never pursued anything because they really didn't have the expertise, and he just left to get the hell out of there before somebody did figure things out. That's a possibility, but I'm out of line to accuse him of that. But they got him. This guy, this time it was 5,900, and that's good. But the thing is, this guy didn't. He's got to continue without a finding. He took a plea. He pleaded to a sufficient facts, and he paid. He's paying restitution, and he's on probation for a year, no fines or anything. So that one, he got off easy. He did get off easy, and he only went to the district court because it was a low number. I'm gonna come back at you, I think. There I am. All right, I need to see what's happening here. We're still recording, everything's working. Okay, I can remove that. Stop screen. Right. So, yeah. So, and there's another one. I'm gonna bring up another one. I got one more. Tingsboro was stole around $492,000. Guess what her job was? Guess what her job was? Let's see. She was the assistant tax collector. So another one out of the treasurer's office or the finance department. They have a consolidated finance department in Tingsboro. And she pled guilty to 5 counts of felony larceny and 1 count of money laundering. Her name is Nancy Dutton. She was 57. And this happened, I think it was 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. Yeah, she was sentenced to 2 years in the House of Correction with 6 months to serve. Another government official with a reduced sentence, and balance suspended for 5. So, and then she had the 5 years she's on probation for. So, and then, oh yeah, then they had another sentence. They wanted her to pay restitution. I don't know how that's working, but she was only actually guilty for 250,000 because they had determined that she actually stole 492,000, but that going back to 2004. But the statute of limitations prevented her from being charged for all of it because they could only go back to 2011. But she had been stealing for years. She was indicted in 2017, and um, the money laundering, pocketing taxpayers' cash payments. That's what it was. She was people. You need to know this. If you people, you go to the treasurer's office, the tax collector's office, and you pay your property taxes in cash. I don't care how many receipts they give you. You want to make sure you paid your taxes for a good reason to pay the town budget. And if the cash payments aren't making it into the town accounts, it's just it's harming all of us. But so cash payments are a problem. Our auditor always tells us cash payments are a problem. What are you going to do about it? And our leadership just looks at like, what do you want us to do about it? We don't know what to do. We're doing everything we can. No, you're not. If you were doing everything you can, they wouldn't tell you if they have a problem with cash payments. But she was taking the cash payments and creating a bogus ledger. Like she had two sets of books. She was, let's see, the 2002, she was the assistant tax collector, and then she was the deputy tax collector. Yep. She was another one with no checks and balances. Yeah. Went home sick. Yes. According to court records, she went home sick. Oh, she was caught and she went home sick, never to return. At a preliminary hearing, blah, blah, blah. So the client suffered. Oh, she lost her judgment because of a head injury. Oh, no. No. Sorry. Then keeping, of course, you had two sets of books. Yeah. There was no second set of eyes. You just trust. You trust you got these people and you say, oh, somebody that does this kind of work would never steal it. They really committed to working for the town, and they're really committed to the work that they're doing, and they would never ever steal, and they do. And like I said, it often starts small. These people don't go into the. I really have confidence. I do. Maybe I'm naive too. I've been known to be naive. That they go in with the idea that they're going to be an honest civil servant, protecting everything and accounting for everything. And I mean, accounting sometimes can be pretty boring until something like this happens. You go, wow, it's really exciting. But then but it's a lot of, moving money on paper, unless somebody's giving you cash. But a lot of the transactions and finance, any of these finance jobs, it's a lot of just doing the same thing over and over again, moving money from one account to the other, taking maybe cash in or taking checks in and then putting them over here, and then somebody's got to take them to the bank, and then some of them are going to bounce, and some of them, I mean, and you just accounting for it and keeping records, and that's where the problems come in, is the record keeping side. And I'm confident that in Tingsboro and in Winchendon, and there's another one I couldn't find, I was looking for, was librarian somewhere. I thought it was one town, and I think there's two towns that sound alike to me, and I think it's the other one, and I said, I'm not going to, we're talking almost an hour on this, but well, people do this. I mean, it's the checks and balances. It's easy to set up a second look so that somebody, when money's in, then there's more record keeping, that you have a cash ledger. You need a cash ledger. Like whatever money's come in, there needs to be a ledger, some kind of sheet, a form, even handwritten to start with. If nobody should be handwriting things anymore, it should be into a computer system. Money comes in the door, it should be immediately accounted for on some type of ledger, and the cash is documented that it came in right now. And then at some point, and there should be somebody, you're not looking over somebody's shoulder, but you've got some kind of, stealing can still happen to some degree, because the ledger has to be taken care of. But if I'm paying my taxes, I've got a tax bill. I mean, the customer is one thing, but the customer isn't part of the checks and balances unless there's a flag. And I do hear it periodically in town from people that they got a late charge on their taxes when they actually paid their taxes early. And that's an important check that you got to deal with. That's very seriously, but never pay cash. You should always write a check. That way, you know when the check cleared. And I've called my treasurer's office, like my tax collector's office, the same office, so, and said, my check hasn't cleared. I'm nervous. I just want to make sure nothing happened to it. And so, and you should be doing that. But if you're paying with cash, all you have is whatever receipt they gave you. And then, even then, it's like you get a late thing. How do you know who's looking at who as being the thief here? And oftentimes it's the customer who's the one who's looked at as not being trustworthy, especially if you're dealing with the thief. But these things happen, and sometimes people lose receipts, or there just isn't, money will, or it goes into the system that the money came in and it did not. And that's what was happening in Tingsboro. And there was nobody to check, doing checks and balances. Sometimes it requires additional staff in the office. Having one person doing everything is, you're done. You need to have somebody else in the business who is developing these checks and balances. And you can't just, oh, they're honest. I've known Mary for 20 years. She's honest. No problem. In these checks and balances, keeps honest people honest. Somebody's having financial difficulties, and they know that there's all these checks and balances, and I can't possibly borrow my grocery money from my job because there's a check and a balance. I can't get away with it. I just need $20. Not that $20 is going to buy you groceries anymore. I just need $20. I need gas. I need something. You can't get it from your job. Though that box needs to be there. Even though you're honest and you're only going to borrow it, you have different, and I know in my own town, there's 2 offices. I don't want to be here all day, but there's 2 offices that I know have red flags all over them in my town, at least 2 offices, maybe 3, because I don't know what's going on in the treasurer's office. There's a lot of people in there, and I hope that everything's okay. But people, anywhere there's cash, anybody that gets cash collections is a red flag, and there should be more checks and balances. And it's really easy to set them up. And it doesn't have to be, what can we do? The money comes in, she takes care of it. No. More checks and balances, more documentation. I can explain it if somebody wants to know. But anyway, this is a boring video for those of you that aren't interested in this kind of stuff. But these people, they stole from their citizens. They didn't just steal. Oh, it's victimless crime, and they're stealing from the government. No, they're stealing from you and I. Really, that's really, especially the small town stuff. Winchendon is a very small town. Well, it's bigger than Townsend, but it's a small town. The court system, Tingsboro's bigger than Townsend, but still a town. And the court system, you got a lot of people thinking they're the most honest place in town, and they're not. The same things can happen anywhere. It can happen in these 3 places. It can happen in your town. And it is happening. Right now, as I'm doing this video, there's at least 100 people stealing from their town government. Or state level, or federal. But I'll stick with the municipal and the state. Trust me, it's happening. And some of you might be watching this video and you're stealing from your community, and you need to stop it. And if you're in a community that has, you're like, oh, it can happen anywhere. Don't think because Mary Smith is your friend from grade school, she would never steal. That's okay. But you should still put checks and making sure the accounting is there. And honest people in these positions would be thrilled that you're asking them to participate, to help fix these spreadsheet things that can be, there are different ways, the different types of ledgers that can be used, and alerts also to show when things are late. and to link the bank accounts to where the money's supposed to be coming from. And you can do it. It's it is, and it's not like overburdensome. And people that work in these offices, sometimes if they have a clue, which they probably do, they know where the safeguards are missing, and they would be thrilled to be have the authority or the power. That, I mean, you're going to let me tell you I can put these in. You're really going to help me put these in, because I am honest, but the next person might not be. There you go, and that can really happen. And so these cases, I like I said at the very beginning, we're all got the news yesterday that this court magistrate clerk magistrate um, stole bail money out of Salem District Court. It's horrifying to hear that. Oh my God, the trust is gone. And the people that work there horrified, and maybe they knew, they just didn't know what to do about it. Um, People think if people have money from somewhere else, I guess. I don't know. But these are just things that it happen all the time. And they're happening right now, like I said. But anyways, that's my story today. Criminals among us, criminals in our government officials on a crime spree. And they are there, and they are in almost every town has got the potential for this happening. And not just Salem District Court, the courthouse behind me, Air District Court. I bet every court, the trial court, the whole trial court is probably looking at their books right now. They're looking at their systems to see, oh, how can we make this better? And how did this happen? And what can we do to keep it from happening in every single trial court? And the opportunities have been there for years, trust me. You just you didn't pay any attention. But in every courthouse, every town hall, anywhere there's money being any financial transactions, there's somebody there. They're not necessarily starting the day out. They didn't start working there because some people do go into jobs because they want to steal from the company. But most people don't. They go in to do an honest day's work, and they come out with a little few extra dollars than they started with. They didn't plan it that way, but they did it, and they got in too deep, and then they end up going to jail, which I think this clerk will get a little bit of jail time. The woman in Tingsboro, hers is pretty egregious. Jesus. But this one is pretty egregious too. So I think that she might do a little time. The other woman only got 6 months, so this one will probably not get any more than that. Depends on how the judge, and the judge will not be the judge, just any of the judges she works with. No. Somebody else will rule on her case. All right, so that's my story today. I hope you enjoyed it. I got the hell out of Townsend on this story, but I want to expand a little bit more in some of the corruption and lack of transparency happening in other jurisdictions, and more of a statewide basis, because all the corruption and concerns and lack of transparency in the town I'm in, which is Townsend. Townsend, Massachusetts. It's always something. But it's anything we got going on, it's going on everywhere else. And anything going on everywhere else is going on in Townsend. And that's part of why I actually, when I started this channel, it was Real Deal Around Townsend. And I shortened it to Real Deal Around Town, because it's small town. I know a lot of my followers aren't in my little town here. They're elsewhere. But everybody's got small towns. Most people live in a small town. And we're everything that happens everywhere can happen anywhere. And we hear that with the Karen Reed trial. I mean, if it can happen to Karen, it can happen to anybody. And that is so true. And if you haven't heard, if you haven't followed all that kind of stuff, Turtle Boy, Aiden Carney, the Norfolk County DA dropped at least one of the charges against him, And the assumption is that because of they were unable to produce a prosecutor who didn't have a conflict of interest in his case. So it's a free Turtle Boy day. He's still got a couple cases left that are still hanging over his head. They're some of the more BS that they're pulling on him in Norfolk County. I think one of them is when he was doing the in the window at D&E Pizza, Chris Albert, select board member Chris Albert's restaurant, and he got charged with wiretapping for doing this. Yep, there you go. That's Norfolk County. But anyway, I do want to get more into getting outside of just the stuff that happens in here. So this was my little trip to Salem without leaving my house. How about that? I couldn't even get the right courthouse behind me. I'm sorry. My apologies to Air District Court. This is Air District Court. I do not have any corruption charges against them today. I forgot to get the picture of Salem District Court to put up to show that it was them. So, but it's the closest thing I could come up with was Air. So, on a short notice, because I had it handy. I have a little file right here in StreamYard. All right, that's it. I'm going to finally go. I'm not going to give you any music at the end. You just do this. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. If you haven't seen some of my other videos, they're going to be popping up on the screen. They're probably there already as you're watching. This is a recording. I'm not doing live. I'm not even doing a preview. So there you have it. I hope you liked my new intro, and hopefully it wasn't too long. Okay, I will see you on the next video. Please like this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and don't hesitate to share this with your friends, especially if they work in a treasurer's office or in courthouse. Take care, everybody. See you on the next one. I'm late for a meeting. Bye.